Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of our StormForge Fireside Chat podcast series leading up to KubeCon. We're here this week talking with all sorts of different folks about the concepts of pain points. Today's guests are from Trello, and they will be talking to us as an end user and also as a platform developer. So we're excited to talk to them today. I, as always, am your co-host, Noah Abrahams, open source advocate here at StormForge. My other co-host,
Cody Crutchington at StormForge.
And gentlemen from Trello, thank you for coming here today. Will you please introduce yourselves to our audience?
Sure. So, hey everyone, this is Prashanto Kochavara. I'm the director of product here at Trello, spearheading our offering for the Kubernetes community around data management and data protection.
Hey everyone, hello. So this is Bhagirath. I've been working with Trello as a solution engineer, and we've been working with StormForge for the last few months.
Fantastic. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Thanks for having us.
So we're going to dive right in because we're really interested in the Trello data management platform, what's been built there, why it's been built. So let's start with, tell us a little bit about the platform, and then, can you describe for us a bit, what was the pain and the motivation? Like, what was the problem state that you were solving that sort of brought this whole thing into existence?
Sure. So Trello for Kubernetes, as you said, is a data management, data protection platform, and we focus on all things data, whether it is, from a developer's perspective of, doing test data management, or whether it is from a security perspective, making sure that your data is secure, or whether it is from an SRE's perspective, making sure you are able to handle disaster recovery kind of scenarios, or migration kind of scenarios. Trello focuses on all of these. Initially, when we started off, as any kind of data protection solution, focuses more on the day two aspect of things. But with Kubernetes being such a team sport where you have your developers working so closely with your ops side, and the IT admin personas as well, we realized that our product has the potential to suffice and focus on a lot of different pain points that the Kubernetes community was trying to evangelize and build on top of with respect to application development and delivery. So that's our product in a nutshell, and what we offer to the community today.
Let's go a little bit more into maybe a little bit of implementation detail. What does it look like for somebody who wants to get involved with the product? What does it look like technically as a user of the product?
So from a how the product been built, it's a cloud native application. It's a Kubernetes native solution that runs as an operator based solution. So we have an operator that deploys the overall instance of an application, manages those instances, however you want to control those instances, whether you want to control it at a cluster level or at a namespace level. That's the overall architecture. Whether you want to do a point in time capture, recovery, define what your application looks like, everything is a custom resource definition for us. So it's very seamless, very follow a service-oriented architecture overall. We are a stateless application ourselves, but we protect both stateless and stateful workloads, whatever is running within the Kubernetes system. And you may have your data aspects running outside of the Kubernetes system, and we are focusing on protecting those workloads as well now.
So you brought up a good point a minute ago. So Kubernetes is still relatively new, I would say. I mean, maybe for some of us it's not. So early on, would you say that the DR aspect and some of the governance driving those factors were really the problem you were trying to solve, and then you realized, hey, it can also be used for these other things?
Absolutely. Like initially, this was a few years ago when we started off, it was more so focused on, backup recovery, DR, ransomware kind of protections and things like that. However, we realized that we control the data portion of it. And, there is a lot more feasibility and a lot more use cases that are being generated that will help the overall intention of Kubernetes, right? It's Kubernetes focuses on fast application development, fast application delivery, which is done by making sure multiple users of your organization are working together collaboratively. And when you're working collaboratively, you need a solution that is not only focused on your admins or uh, your resources who are focused on disaster recovery, but you can also, or you should also be using that same tool to focus on use cases that your developers are using, or what your developers are trying to achieve. So basically it's one solution that fits multiple use cases for different kinds of personas, from development all the way to deployment to monitoring of the application and overall life cycle of the application.
Cool. So we've talked a lot about applications in the past, and one of the reasons that we work together is the optimization piece. We're talking about the application optimization. Can you talk a little bit about identifying the need for optimization within the platform versus identifying the need for external application optimization, and a little bit about the optimization that we brought in? Is that solving an internal pain point, or is that more bringing value to the customers, or is that both? Like, where does that fit within the platform that you're delivering, and how does that fit the solution?
So I'm going to answer the question in two ways, right? So when we looked at StormForge and the optimization capabilities that StormForge had, we immediately realized that there are two kind of problems that we can solve for internally ourselves and for the users that we are servicing through our product. So I'm going to talk about at a high level what our intention and goal is, and then Bhagirath can probably step into the details of how we are achieving that. So from an external use case point of view, when you think about point-in-time capture, point-in-time recovery, there are two variables that have been, that any kind of solution or any kind of customer also is monitoring. That's recovery point objective, how much, what's the last point of capture, or how much data loss can you tolerate, and then recovery time objective, RTO, how quickly should your applications or your data get restored. Now, obviously, both have a correlation, very, very strong correlation to CPU and memory resources. Obviously, when you're doing the capture, you want to make sure that you're able to capture it quickly so that whatever you have defined for your toleration of data loss is upheld. And then if you are recovering, obviously you want to recover quickly. You don't want to wait for hours and hours, or days to make sure that your applications are back up online again after a disaster. So those are the two main variables. And through StormForge, what we realized is we can make it very intricate for the user so that any new application that they're deploying into a Kubernetes cluster, instead of trying to do raw analysis as to, hey, what should the best recovery point objective be for this application, we are using StormForge to provide that to the user, saying that, hey, you don't have to calculate all those things yourself, and let this automation tool take care of all that. Let this optimization tool figure it out and give you that calculation as to what is the exact cost that you are investing in terms of memory, CPU, and what is the value you're getting. It may be that you were trying to push a lot of memory and CPU, but the advantage that you were getting from a RPO, RTO perspective was very, very minimal. So now users can immediately understand as and when they onboard new applications, what should be the best RPO that they can achieve, and they can set it. And maybe if the best RPO that they want to achieve is not possible, then they know, okay, hey, we need to up the resources on the system so that everything still functions as a very strong basic unit. Similarly, from the recovery standpoint, where you have RTO, we want to let users know that, hey, if you increase your memory and CPU to these levels, your application can, recover 50% faster. That is a very, very strong value statement. And all of this being automated and, being crunched behind the scenes for the customer becomes very, very valuable, because, it's, you don't have you have peace of mind, because, okay, hey, everything is going to be taken care of. Everything's being optimized. Cost is going to be, suitable to my needs, because I am dictating the resources that need to be applied. So, considering the kind of world we live in, hybrid, memory and CPU do have direct implications of what you apply, and you want to right size your resources very, very early on to avoid any additional costs. So that's more on the customer front, where we are using StormForge to optimize the experience for our users on our own platform. And then internally, obviously, as we are doing scalability tests, stress tests, and anything on those lines to validate the product, regression tests as well, we use StormForge to make sure those pieces are also upheld in a way, right? Like scaling to 100,000 backups and things like that. What is the memory CPU need? What is the guidance that we need to provide to customers? That, hey, Mr. Customer, if you have X terabytes of data, this is the best memory CPU config that you need. That level of guidance, which normally we would have taken multiple engineers to run tests in parallel to figure out. Now we have an automated machine learning engine that does all of that for us. And from a resource perspective, it's very, very simple. So not only from the build of the application, but also from the delivery of the application and the experience to the end user, definitely there is a lot of value between our own product and StormForge.
That's great. Kind of getting, StormForge isn't the only solution that you have to help your customers. I think you have something for GitHub Runner, you have something for, a few other things. What does it look like, or can you talk about what it looks like when you identify something, what it looks like for you incorporating your customers' needs and pain points back into the platform from a product sense?
Okay, so if I understood the question correctly, what you're saying is, how are we productizing this experience for the customer?
Yeah, we not just StormForge in general, but not just with StormForge, but in general as it is. Because obviously you have stuff out there, and you're very customer focused.
Right. So the way we track it is it's all based on there's obviously 100 things that we need to do, and everything needs to be prioritized. These kind of solutions are our entry point to understand what is being leveraged more by users. It's a test as well. It may not be like all 100 customers are using it right away, but tomorrow we see, okay, hey, 99% of our customers are using StormForge with Trello. So that will make it very clear to us that, hey, this needs to be more of a productized solution. So for example, when our product, we have a feature known as disaster recovery, right? Where a user can just take all the different applications that he had protected into multiple backup repositories, and he can construct this plan and say that, okay, this is my minimal viable business, and I want to, get this instantiated again. So the way we think about it is, it would be highly, highly valuable, where we can have StormForge predict that to the end customer and say, you have these 7-8 clusters available. This is the cluster at the lowest cost and the fastest time that you can get your application up and running again. So our intention, again, is to first look at the traction in terms of how customers adopt. And once we see a decent amount of adoption, we productize it into the product. We already have a lot of plans as to where it fits into the product. Now it's more about tracking how the usage is.
So, so a question over to Bhagirath. Since you're much more, you're sort of elbows deep in the implementation when you're doing these integrations, what does it look like when you're doing these implementations and these integrations within the platform for, as Prashanto said, whether something's going to be productized or whether or not it's just going to be integrated? Are there differences that come along when you're doing that type of work, or does everything get done in the same sort of way?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So actually, while doing the implementation of the product side, right, we have realized that StormForge is something that is very easy for us to implement and integrate with Trello, right? Trello being a backup and recovery solution, the best benefit that we actually got out of it is for the cost optimization, right? And the integration with Trello for the backup and recovery, it's much easier than writing your own automation suite for it, right? So when we actually have StormForge in place, which is integrated through experiments and config maps, right? It was much easier for us to just create those config maps, create those experiments, depending on different use cases that we were trying to build. So just to give you an example, right? Having number of backups trigger either sequentially or parallelly, depending on the customer needs, is not a big task when we actually have StormForge, right? For us, understanding an experiment and putting those use cases into the experiment is much easier, because learning the experiment has become a very easy task now. So instead of going through all the new implementation of the code for automation, the integration obviously has helped us to do this much faster. And on the productizing side as well, it is much easier for us now to productize it with Trello and then ask customer to follow certain steps so that the problems that they are facing from the cost and their RPO, RTO side can be resolved very easily.
Awesome. So if I were to turn that on its ear slightly, it sounds like you're also saying that the integration work is much more dependent on the tool that you're integrating with than on the behavior, whether you're looking for productizing versus a direct integration. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
Great. I think I am out of questions at this. Cody, what else you got?
Not much. I can say this team is really great people to work with. So I've had a lot of fun working with you all over the past few months. So it's been great.
Voice good.
Awesome. Oh, heartwarming. I love it. I guess it's time to move on to our rapid fire questions then. Cody, you want to grab this one?
Sure. Okay. Again, rapid fire questions, not necessarily has to do too much with much of anything, if that makes any sense. Feel free to answer them as they pop in your head.
Sure.
And we're going to start. Pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
Yes.
No, I guess.
All right. Favorite sports team?
I follow cricket a lot. So, and there is a local Indian league called IPL. So Mumbai Indians is my favorite team.
Okay. So I will also go with the IPL since it's going on currently. There's the 13th season. So I have Chennai Super Kings, which is my favorite team.
Nice. All right. Favorite piece of technology?
Rapid fire. Wow. I would say probably my phone. Do anything and everything on my phone.
Absolutely. Agree with Prashant on that.
That's actually a fairly popular answer, believe it or not.
It was right in front of me, so the answer came very easy.
All right, favorite open source project?
Oh, I've been tracking Argo very closely, and it's just been something that I've been looking at and really liking how they've built and constructing the overall project.
I agree with you.
Yeah. So I am also followed Argo, and there's one more tool which is being built by one of the firm in India. So it's called BotCube, which is majorly for communication or notification or monitoring between different tools, some like Slack and your Kubernetes cluster. So that one for me.
Nice. All right, last two. Favorite hobby?
Not doing anything and relaxing. that can be a hobby. Yeah.
Maybe watching cricket all the time with some popcorns.
That's fair. That's fair.
From a more realistic point of view, I would say running. I do run a lot, so that would be a
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Favorite place to vacation?
Anything that is close to the ocean and warm, especially since we are in the Northeast. So now that's still top of mind.
Yeah.
That's that tough one for me. On the domestic side, we have any beach for that matter. If you ask me on the international side that I have visited recently was before COVID was Switzerland. I really liked the Zurich Lake.
Man, we've been talking about trying to get over there at some point, hopefully with COVID, but I've seen the videos of all the waterfalls and stuff like that. Oh man, it looks fantastic. Yeah. Perfect. That's all I have. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
This was fun. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us today. This has been a wonderful conversation. Great view into the building of a product and as an end user and a consumer as well. It's a nice dichotomy, and we like to present it. So thank you, everyone who tuned in for joining us, and we will see you tomorrow on our next episode. Have a wonderful day, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.